Okay. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to welcome everyone to the 2017 Haverford Township Reorganization meeting. At this time, I'll start with roll call. And before I do that, I wish everyone, I hope everyone had a safe and happy holiday season. Mr. D'Amelio?
Here.
Mr. Oliva?
Here.
Mr. McCluskey?
Here.
Mr. Siegel?
Here.
Mr. Lewis?
Here.
Mr. Holmes?
Here.
Mr. McGarity?
Here.
Mr. Connell?
Here.
And Mr. Wexler.
Here.
This time, I'd ask everyone to stand. Chief, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I know, I went ahead.
And thank you. At this time, I'll be chairing the meeting for a very brief, and I mean brief, period of time. I will be opening promotions for the position of President of the Board of Commissioners.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I'd like to make a motion to nominate Chris Connell to serve as President of the Board of Commissioners.
Second.
Okay, I'm sorry, who seconded that?
I'll second that.
Mr. Township Manager,
Yes, Mr. Holmes.
I'd like to nominate Dan Siegel to serve as President of the Board of Commissioners.
Second.
And seconded by Mr. McCluskey.
Motion to close?
Second.
I'm sorry, before we close, I believe, don't I have to have the opportunity to open it up to the floor? You do? I believe so. I
you mean
believe
this
that's
floor?
protocol that we've done before, so. By the floor, you mean the board, right?
Yeah, the board.
Board?
Has to be the board. Has to be
Okay.
nominated by the board.
Yep,
All right.
but you close the nominations.
Nominations?
Yeah.
Close the nominations,
That's
okay.
it, right?
Second.
What do we have open to the floor?
Does that clue you in on who's going to be our
Unless somebody
solicitor?
in the audience wants to be president.
Okay. Is all in favor for,
Aye.
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 any opposed? Okay, at this time, I'll take the vote. Mr. D'Amelio?
Mr. Connell?
Mr. Oliva?
Mr. Connell.
Mr. McCluskey?
Mr. Siegel.
Mr. Siegel?
Mr. Siegel.
Mr. Lewis?
Mr. Connell.
Mr. Holmes?
Mr. Siegel,
Mr. McGarity?
Mr. Connell.
Mr. Connell? Mr. Connell? And Mr. Wexler?
Mr. Connell.
Congratulations to Mr. Connell. Mr. Connell, you bring your, if you can just unplug your computer and take that with you as well. You eventually. Jimmy, you don't use any of this, do you?
No.
You know what? I'm gonna go by. You're gonna go by that? All right. Just keep it charged, just in case. The other side there, and you'll be good, so you won't run dry. Thank you. Are you okay?
Okay, and thank you very much. Item number 3 on the agenda is nominations for Vice President of the Board of Commissioners.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. D'Amelio,
I'd like to make a motion to nominate Mario Oliva as Vice President of the Board of Commissioners.
Second.
and seconded by Mr. McGarity. Are there any more nominations?
Mr. President,
Mr. Siegel,
I'd nominate Commissioner Holmes for Vice President, please.
Second.
and seconded by Mr. McCluskey. Are there any other nominations to the board?
Motion to close?
Motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Mr. Secretary, please take the roll.
Certainly, Mr. D'Amelio.
Mr. Oliva.
Mr. Oliva.
Mr. Oliva?
Mr. McCluskey.
Mr. Holmes?
Mr. Siegel.
Mr. Holmes?
Mr. Lewis.
Mr. Oliva.
Mr. Holmes.
Mr. Holmes.
Mr. McGarity.
Mr. Oliva.
Mr. Wexler. Mr. Oliva. And Mr. Connell.
Mr. Oliva.
Congratulations, Mr. Oliva.
Congratulations.
Lie down or numbers?
Yeah, well.
I guess these are charged enough, aren't they?
I will.
Good to see you. I don't think I assume it's already charged.
What's up?
Item number 4 is the appointments for administrative. We'll now entertain a motion for Township Solicitor.
Mr. President.
Mr. Holmes.
Mr. President, I recommend that we reappoint Jim Byrne as the Township Solicitor for a one-year term to expire December 31st, 2017.
Second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Oliva.
Mr. President, I would move
Vote.
that we close.
Are there any additional?
No.
No, and I don't believe, okay.
I would move
Second
we
to close.
once.
Thank you, Mr. Holmes and Mr. D'Amelio. Mr. Secretary, take the vote, please.
Mr. D'Amelio.
Mr. Byrne.
Mr. McCluskey.
Mr. Byrne?
Mr. Siegel.
Mr. Byrne?
Mr. Lewis.
Mr. Byrne?
Mr. Holmes.
James Byrne.
Mr. McGarity.
Jim Byrne.
Mr. Wexler.
Mr. Byrne?
Mr. Oliva.
Mr. Byrne?
And Mr. Connell.
And Mr. Byrne.
See you back.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Yeah, you gotta hold on one second.
I was a little nervous answering that question earlier. I didn't want to get the wrong answer.
I don't know, I was starting to waver from that answer there. Rich Carrata was mouthing.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Chairman? Yep, no problem.
Thank you.
Continuation under item number 4.
Mr. President,
Mr. D'Amelio.
I'd like to make a motion to appoint Kevin O'Neill Esquire as Civil Service Solicitor for the one-year term to expire December 31st, 2017.
Second.
Seconded by Kevin O'Neill. Yep. And it was seconded by Mr. McGarity. Any additional?
Close the motions.
Second?
And seconded, Mr. McGarity, and seconded by Mr. D'Amelio. Take the roll, please.
Certainly, Mr. D'Amelio.
Mr. O'Neill?
Mr. McCluskey.
Mr. O'Neill?
Siegel.
Mr. O'Neill?
Mr. Lewis.
Mr. O'Neill?
Mr. Holmes.
Mr. O'Neill.
Mr. McGarity.
Mr. O'Neill.
Mr. Wexler. Mr. O'Neill. Mr. Oliva.
Mr. O'Neill.
And Mr. Connell.
Mr. O'Neill. Congratulations, Mr. O'Neill. Continuing under item number 4.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to confirm the Township Manager's appointment of Pannoni Engineers as Township Engineer to expire December 31st, 2017.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. D'Amelio.
Motion
Okay, this is a
closed.
confirmation, so we don't need to close this? This is a confirmation, is that correct?
That is correct. That's
Okay, when
Okay.
you're ready, take the roll,
I'm
please.
sorry.
Sure, no, take your time. We have all night.
No, we don't.
Mr. D'Amelio.
The audience
Mr.
will.
Pannoni.
I think we vote yes, right?
Mr. McCluskey.
Yes. Right,
We're voting yes or
confirming-
no.
Yes.
We're voting yes.
Mr. Siegel.
Yes.
Mr. Lewis.
Yes.
Mr. Holmes.
Yes.
Mr. McGarity.
Well, since Dave's been here since the 1940s like me, I'll vote for Dave Pannoni.
He was here in your 10th term, Jimmy? Is that right?
Mr. Wexler.
Yes.
Hope she still wants it. I don't even know.
Mr. Oliva.
To our website.
Yes.
And Mr. Connell.
Yes to Mr. Pannoni.
Mr. President, I just asked a question. Just wondering why we confirm the engineer and we don't confirm the solicitor. What's the difference between the two?
Township manager doesn't.
What?
Township.
I mean, you're recommending the engineer, and why you're not, and that's a professional service, so why wouldn't it be the same for Mr. Byrne?
I don't know the answer to that question.
I'm just curious.
I do. Dave Pannoni answers to the township manager. The township solicitor represents this
Represents the
board.
board.
Okay.
Doesn't do anything with the township
Okay, that makes sense.
manager or township
In
personnel.
lieu of our, if we had a staff engineer like Upper Dartmouth.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lewis. Continuing on number 4.
Mr. President,
Holmes.
I would move we reappoint Jennifer Brown Esquire of the law firm Flam, Walton, Heimbach, and Lamb as the township's business tax attorney.
Second?
Seconded by Mr. McCluskey this time.
That was.
We haven't had much discussion about this, but this is a reappointment at the specific request of our township finance director, who is very impressed with and thinks continued service of Attorney Brown is very important to the township, and has asked that we reappoint Attorney Brown.
Any further comment? There being none, please take the roll.
Mr. D'Amelio.
Jennifer Brown.
Mr. McCluskey.
Yes.
Mr. Siegel.
Yes.
Mr. Lewis.
Yes.
Mr. Holmes.
Yes.
Mr. McGarity.
Yes.
Mr. Wexler.
Yes.
Mr. Oliva.
Yes.
And Mr. Connell.
Yes. Congratulations. Item number 5, resolution. Mario?
Yeah, sorry. Motion to adopt resolution number 2034, 2017, appointing the following boards and commissions.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. D'Amelio. Comment? Take the roll, please.
Mr. D'Amelio.
Yes.
Mr. McCluskey.
Yes.
Mr. Siegel.
Yes.
Mr. Lewis.
Yes.
Mr. Holmes.
Yes.
Mr. McGarity.
Yes.
Mr. Wexler.
Yes.
Mr. Oliva.
Yes.
Mr. Connell.
Yes. Okay. Item number 6, continuing of appointments. Item number 6 is the Civil Service Commission for this is the alternative member for the position. This is for a person that will come in if they need to bring in. Are there any nominations for this position? The appointment for civil service for a 6-year term to expire December 31st, 2022.
Do we have anybody?
Note that there are no people at this time. We will table it until the following meeting.
Motion to table?
Second.
Mr. D'Amelio and Mr. McGarity. Although in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. I will ask all those opposed. Nope, the ayes have it. Next item is the Environmental Advisory Committee, two-year term. Ward commissioners appoint these individuals for their own wards. Mr. D'Amelio, in Ward number 1.
Terry Watkins.
Ward number 2.
Dave Schwartz.
Ward number 3.
I'm going to table till the next meeting.
Table. Ward number 4.
Aurora Dizelle.
Ward number 5.
Yeah, I just want to thank Colleen Hanson for her service on this committee. She made a significant contribution over the time that she served, but unfortunately, she no longer has the time to continue, so I'll have to come back with a new name.
Certainly.
at a date, future date.
Ward number 6.
I'd like to thank Michael D'Antonio for his work on the Environmental Advisory Committee, and I need one more week to convince him to do it again, so I'm going to table this.
Okay. Ward number 7.
Number 7, Henry Eichman. That's a reappointment.
Ward number 9.
Ms. Patricia Loomer.
I'm sorry, Mr. Wexler, can you repeat that?
Patricia Loomer for reappointment.
Ward number 2. Did I get you, Mario?
Yeah.
Did, okay, thank you. And for Ward number 8 will be Peter Poganese. Congratulations to all those individuals who've been appointed to the committees, and next month we'll go through the next round. Next on the agenda is appointments to Friends of the Grange. This is a one-year term.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to reappoint Mr. Chad Brooks to serve in the Friends of the Grange for a one-year term.
Second.
Mr. McGarity, and seconded by Mr. McCluskey. Motion to close?
Second.
All in favor?
Close.
Aye.
Aye.
Take the roll.
Mr. D'Amelio?
Chad Brooks.
Mr. McCluskey?
Chad Brooks.
Mr. Siegel?
Mr. Brooks.
Mr. Lewis?
Chad Brooks.
Mr. Holmes?
Mr. Brooks.
Mr. McGarity?
Chad Brooks.
Mr. Wexler?
Mr. Brooks.
Mr. Oliva?
Mr. Brooks.
And Mr. Connell.
Yes to Mr. Brooks. Congratulations, Mr. Brooks. The second position?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to nominate George Harding for reappointment to the Friends of the Grange.
Second.
Second by Mr. McGarity.
Motion to close.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Yep. Take the roll, please.
Mr. D'Amelio?
Mr. Harding.
Mr. McCluskey?
Mr. Harding.
Mr. Siegel?
Mr. Harding.
Mr. Lewis?
Mr. Harding.
Holmes?
Mr. Harding.
Mr. McGarity?
George Harding.
Mr. Wexler?
Mr. Harding.
Mr. Oliva?
Mr. Harding.
And Mr. Connell.
Yes to Mr. Harding. Third position for the Friends of the Grange.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to reappoint Mr. Connor Quinn to serve on the Friends of the Grange for a one-year term expires December 31st, 2017.
Second.
By Mr. D'Amelio.
Motion to close.
Okay. Motion to close?
Second.
Seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Take the roll, please.
Mr. D'Amelio?
Mr. Quinn.
Mr. McCluskey?
Connor Quinn.
Mr. Siegel?
Mr. Quinn.
Mr. Lewis?
Mr. Quinn.
Mr. Holmes?
Mr. Quinn.
Mr. McGarity?
Mr. Quinn.
Mr. Wexler?
Mr. Quinn.
Mr. Oliva?
Mr. Quinn.
And Mr. Connell.
Yes to Mr. Quinn.
I believe he's here.
Congratulations, all these three individuals are reappointments, Mr. Brooks, Mr. Quinn, and Mr. Harding. Congratulations. And this is for a one-year term. Next on the agenda is the Health Advisory Board for a five-year term.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to reappoint Judith Benito to serve on the Health Advisory Board for a five-year term expiring December 31st, 2021.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. D'Amelio.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to appoint Christine Seawagon to serve on the Health Advisory Board for a five-year term to expire on December 31st, 2021.
Christine, and it was seconded by Mr. Siegel,
Yes.
and then it was Christine Seawagon.
Yeah, do we have a discussion now or after it closes?
And it has been seconded, so, yep. Go to-
Yeah,
go
I
to
just
discuss.
wanted to say Ms. Seawagon made an excellent appearance when she presented before this board, and she's highly qualified for a position on our Health Advisory Board. She has a degree from Haverford College. She has a Master's of Health Science and Health Economics from Johns Hopkins University and a post-baccalaureate certificate in Public Health Informatics, also from Johns Hopkins. She currently works in the healthcare field for Independence Blue Cross and is a four-year resident of Haverford Township. And I think she would make an excellent addition to the Health Advisory Board.
Thank you very much. Any additional? Motion to close?
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And during the roll, just do the last name of the individual the name of the individual you wish to vote for.
Mr. D'Amelio?
Judith Aduda.
Mr. McCluskey?
Ms. Seawagon.
Mr. Siegel?
Ms. Seawagon.
Mr. Lewis?
Judith Van Tudo.
Mr. Holmes?
Ms. Seawagon.
Mr. Garrity?
Judith Benito.
Mr. Wexler?
Ms. Seawagon.
Mr. Oliva?
Judith Ventudo.
And Mr. Connell?
Judith Ventudo, congratulations. That's a reappointment to the Health Board. Next on the agenda is the Historical Commission. It's a four-year term. There are four seats here. Two seats are, let's see, I think it's, yeah, two seats are the full positions, and then two seats are to fill unexpired terms. The first one is for a full position.
Mr. President, I'd like to reappoint Susan Baruco to serve on the Historic Commission for a term of 4 years to expire December 31st, 2020.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. D'Amelio. Okay. Close the nominations?
Second.
Motion to close.
Motion to close? Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Take the roll, please.
Mr. D'Amelio?
Zana Baracco.
Mr. McCluskey?
Ms. Baruka.
Mr. Siegel?
Ms. Baruco.
Mr. Lewis?
Ms. Baruco.
Mr. Holmes?
Ms. Baruco.
Mr. McGarity?
Susanna Baruco.
Mr. Wexler?
Ms. Baruco.
Mr. Oliva?
Ms. Baruco.
And Mr. Connell?
And Ms. Baruco, congratulations on your reappointment. Second position for a full four-year term?
Mr. President, I'd like to
Mr. Oliva.
I'd like to reappoint Christine Cruises to serve on the Historic Commission for a term of 4 years to expire December 31st, 2020.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. McGarity. Motion to close?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Take the roll, please.
Mr. D'Amelio?
Christine Cruz. I say her name.
Cruz.
Cruzes.
Mr. McCluskey?
Ms. Cruzes.
Mr. Siegel?
Ms. Cruzes.
Mr. Lewis?
Ms. Cruzes.
Mr. Mr. Holmes?
Ms. Cruises.
Mr. McGarity?
Cruz, Christine Cruz.
Mr. Wexler?
Ms. Cruises.
Mr. Oliva?
Mrs. Cruises.
And Mr. Connell.
Yes. Okay, the congratulations. The next one is for unexpired four-year term. Nominations, Mr.
Chairman?
Lewis?
Yes, I'd like to appoint Kathy Case to fill the unexpired four-year term on the Historical Commission to expire December 31st, 2018.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Emilio.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I gotta get.
Motion to close? Motion to close?
Motion to close.
Second.
Seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Take the roll, please.
Mr. D'Amelio?
Kathy Case.
Mr. I'm sorry, Mr. McCluskey?
Ms. Case.
Mr. Siegel?
Ms. Case.
Mr. Lewis?
Kathy Case.
Mr. Holmes?
Ms. Case.
Mr. McGarity?
Kathy Case.
Mr. Wexler?
Ms. Case.
Mr. Oliva?
Kathy Case.
And Mr. Connell.
Yes, for Kathy Case. Congratulations. And the last is also an expired four-year term.
Mr. President?
Mr. McCluskey or Mr. Siegel? Who was this?
Mr. Siegel?
Mr. Siegel?
Motion to appoint Libby Hawes to fill the unexpired four-year term on the Historic Commission to expire December 31st, 2018.
Second.
Okay, seconded by Mr. McCluskey.
Motion to appoint Eric Shenety to fill the unexpired four-year term on the Historical Commission to expire December 31st, 2018.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Oliva. And that was Schnitke, I believe. And can I have the proper for this first one?
Yeah, the ones I have.
Okay.
That's all I have.
All right. Motion to close?
Motion to close. Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Just please give the name when you're addressed, when you're ready.
I am. Mr. D'Amelio?
Eric Shinicki.
Did I say his name?
I think that's right.
Mr. McCluskey?
Ms. Hawes.
Mr. Siegel?
Ms. Hawes?
Mr. Lewis?
Mr. Schnitke.
Mr. Holmes?
Ms. Hawes.
Mr. McGarity?
Eric Shenety.
Mr. Wexler?
Ms. Hawes.
Mr. Oliva?
Eric Shinicki.
And Mr. Connell.
Mr. Schnicki. Congratulations. Those are the four seats for the Historical Commission. Next is Human Relations Commission for three-year terms. There are two seats available here.
Mr. President, like to make a motion to appoint James Brown to serve on the Human Relations Commission for a three-year term to expire December 31st, 2019.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Lewis. Motion to close?
So moved.
Second.
Seconded. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Take the roll, please.
Mr. D'Amelio?
Brown.
Mr. McCluskey?
Mr. Brown.
Mr. Siegel?
Mr. Brown?
Mr. Lewis?
Mr. Brown.
Mr. Holmes?
Mr. Brown.
McGarity?
Mr. Brown.
Mr. Wexler?
Mr. Brown.
Mr. Oliva?
James Brown.
And Mr. Connell.
Yes to Mr. Brown. Second position on the Human Relations Commission.
Chairman,
Mr. Lewis.
I'd like to move to appoint Joanne Blossman to serve on the Human Relations Commissions for a 3-year term to expire December 31st, 2019.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. McGarity.
Motion to close.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? When you're ready, take the roll.
D'Amelio.
Joanne Glossman.
Yes.
Mr. McCluskey.
Ms. Glassman.
Mr. Siegel.
Ms. Glussman?
Mr. Lewis.
Ms. Glassman?
Mr. Holmes.
Ms. Glossman.
Mr. McGarity.
Joanne Glassman.
Mr. Wexler.
Ms. Guston.
Mr. Oliva.
Ms. Glassman.
And Mr. Connell.
Yes to Ms. Glussman. Congratulations. Next on the agenda is the Ice Skating Rink Advisory Board. This is for a 3-year term. There are 4 positions.
Mr. Chairman?
The first one will be for a full 3 years. Yes, Mr.
It's a
D'Amelio.
reappointment, right?
Well, it's an appointment or a reappointment, but
Okay,
it's for
you're
a
right.
3-year term.
I'd like to make a motion to reappoint Adam Terranova to serve on the Ice Rink Advisory Board for a term of 3 years to expire December 31st, 2019.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. McGarity.
Motion to close.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Take the roll, please.
Mr. D'Amelio.
Terranova.
Mr. McCluskey.
Mr. Terranova.
Mr. Siegel.
Mr. Terranova?
Mr. Lewis.
Mr. Terranova?
Mr. Holmes.
Mr. Terranova.
Mr. McGarity.
Adam Terranova.
Mr. Wexler.
Mr. Terranova.
Mr. Oliva.
Mr. Terranova.
And Mr. Connell.
Yes to Mr. Terranova. Congratulations on your reappointment. Next one is also for a 3-year term, expires December 31st.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to appoint Kate Stickle to serve on the Ice Skating Rink Advisory Board for a term of 3 years to expire on December 31st, 2019.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. McGarity.
Motion to close.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Take the roll, please.
Mr. D'Amelio.
Stickle.
Mr. McCluskey.
Ms. Stickle.
Mr. Siegel.
Ms. Stickle?
Mr. Lewis.
Kate Stickle?
Mr. Holmes.
Ms. Stickle.
Mr. McGarity.
Kate Stickle.
Mr. Wexler.
Ms. Stickle?
Mr. Oliva.
Kate Stickle.
And Mr. Connell.
Yes to Kate Stickle. Okay, and that is for the position of a 3-year term. Okay, the next one is also to serve for a term of 3 years.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to reappoint Karen Semeleas to serve on the Ice Rink Advisory Board for a term of 3 years to expire December 31st,
Second.
2019.
Seconded by Mr. McGarity.
Motion to close.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Take the roll, please.
Mr. D'Amelio.
Karen Semeleas.
Mr. McCluskey.
Ms. Simulares.
Mr. Siegel.
Ms. Simulaeus?
Mr. Lewis.
Ms. Simulaeus?
Mr. Holmes.
Ms. Simulanes.
McGarity.
Karen Simulaeus.
Mr. Wexler.
Ms. Simulaeus?
Mr. Oliva.
Ms. Simulaeus?
And Mr. Connell.
Yes to Ms. Simolenis. And the next, congratulations. I don't think she's here. Okay. This is for an unexpired term. It does say unexpired 3-year term, but note that it does expire 2018. So it's to fill the unexpired term. Okay.
Right, so it's 2 years.
Yes,
left
an
on it.
2 years left
two-year
on it.
term.
Right. Nominations?
We table this to go back over our list of candidates.
Second.
To all the folks who, including the folks who applied for other positions.
We certainly can table it. If there are if nobody is making a motion for a candidate, then we'll table it.
If I can, let me officially move to table this appointment, reappointment to the unexpired 3-year term.
Motion to table by Mr. Holmes, and it's second,
Let me
Andy,
second it.
No, Lewis.
Andy did.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Andy Lewis.
Mr. Lewis, second by Mr. Lewis. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Table has it. Next on the agenda is Library Board of Trustees for a 3-year term.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to move to reappoint Angela Gasparo to serve as the Library Board of Trustee for a 3-year term to expire December 31st, 2019.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Oliva.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to appoint Margaret Fox Tully to serve as Library Board of Trustee for a 3-year term to expire December 31st, 2019.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Holmes. And that was by Mr. Holmes.
Motion to close.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Answer with a name, please.
Mr. D'Amelio?
We'd like to have discussion on this topic.
Yeah,
You already
just-
closed.
Motion was,
Nominations are
Close the
closed. We'd like
nominations,
discussion
close the
on
vote.
now the vote.
I just said take the roll, take the vote.
I appreciate you said that, but
Yep.
I'd like to have discussion on it.
There was.
You saying we can't have discussion on this?
Well, we motioned to close, and then
Move
he
to
said call the
close
roll.
nominations. I
But
would
then he
like to
called
now
the
have
roll.
discussion on the vote. Oh, I'm sorry. Are you taking the roll on the closing nominations, or are you taking a roll on the vote?
No, it was to take the vote. All I said was all in favor. Well, I got
Right,
it,
so
yay.
nominations are closed.
Nominations are
Two people
closed.
for consideration of this role. Are we going to have discussion on
Well,
this?
what I did was call for the vote, and I do believe at that time we can go for the vote. But I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do. Mr. Holmes, in respect, please, by all means, open this up to discussion.
Okay. Ms. Fox Tully presents an extraordinary opportunity for this board to get somebody with great experience and obviously interviewed very well with this board. Everybody was impressed with Ms. Tully. She certainly has my support. I know she has Mr. McCluskey's support. There is an issue with regard to the current Board of Trustees. Up until 2 weeks ago, the Library Board of Trustees had term limits on the number of times a person could be appointed to one of the positions, either the library's appointment or the Board of Commissioners' appointment, and that was 3 terms. Ms. Gasparo served for those 3 terms, served well, and the time, and those bylaws have governed every board before this board now. Now, with very little notice, the Board of the Library Trustees was notified that they would have a change of their bylaws last week. The bylaws were changed specifically to address this issue and render Ms. Gasparo available and eligible for a 4th term. I do not agree with the vote that the Board of Trustees took for changing its term limits. Whether it was legal or not, I do not think it was the right thing to do. I also think that everybody up until now has served on that board with the understanding that they would step out after 3 years. We have extraordinary candidates in addition to Ms. Tully who were qualified for this position. If ever the library board needed new blood, it is now with the work that we're trying to do for it. And I implore my colleagues on this board to recognize the importance of change at the library and of modern thinking at the library and to support Ms. Tully for this position.
Just to follow up on the qualifications that Ms. Tully has, you know, and to reiterate, you know, my position is, especially considering the upcoming construction that we've agreed to support at the library, that there's a major undertaking that's going to occur in the next year or two, and I think it's in this board's best interest to have the most qualified people who are willing to serve in Haverford Township. Ms. Tully has a 30-year career in English and literature. She has degrees from Rutgers University, a master's from Wesleyan. She has a 20-year career for the last 20 years, served in administrative roles at various colleges and universities. She is currently the head of school at Holy Child Drexel Hill. In these positions, she served in dual roles, as many administrators do, that are appropriate for what the library needs at this time in terms of overseeing long-term plans, overseeing construction projects, but also in terms of fundraising for nonprofit organizations. Prior to joining Holy Child Academy of Drexel Hill, she worked at Princeton University for the better part of a decade, serving as the assistant to the president. At that point, she acted as the primary liaison to the University Office of Development, identifying appropriate donor cultivation and solicitation strategies. For the last 3 years, from 2013 to 2016, she was the Director of Organizational Effectiveness and Communications at Princeton University. She is a 25-year resident of Haverford Township. She has a degree in literature. She's overqualified for a position on the library board, and I would highly recommend that we take advantage of the talent and the people who are willing to share that talent that live in this township, and appoint Ms. Tully to the library board.
Yeah, if I could just comment on
Mr. Lewis?
Sparrow. First off, I agree with the comments that were made about the candidate pool that we had this year. It was outstanding for the library. I mean, really exceptional. We had 4 or 5 really exceptional candidates, and that was good to see. Angela Gaspara is the only current board member that actually has operated a library, and she did so for, I don't have her resume in front of me, but for the city of Philadelphia for many years. I had the opportunity to reach out to all the directors, both the directors appointed by this Board of Commissioners and also by the association, and I was able to talk to four individuals, current board members, all of which confirmed that Angela Gaspara's service has been stellar, albeit she's had some, unfortunately, had some health issues in the last year. But she has participated from the hospital in various calls when she couldn't be there in person. And she is a very dedicated, passionate person who I think has made a contribution to the library over many years and will continue to do so. So I would enthusiastically support her being reappointed.
Mr. President?
Mr. Siegel?
I attended that meeting, but I want to sort of preface this. As people who know me know, I have always said that I find the most difficult and probably the most distasteful meeting of this board to be our reorganization meeting, not because of the vote that I know I'm going to lose every year for president or vice president, but because we are forced to choose between too many good candidates, to balance the need for new blood versus keeping people who have served ably, and to try to make the tough decisions that, while some candidates take personally, are not. They are very difficult decisions over the years, and that the meeting of the board that I attended gave me concern that are beyond this meeting, and I'm not going to address them now. The bylaw revisions I had concerns with. The board solicitor agreed with me that they should table that vote, and the board chose not to. That's their prerogative. But I think this board has to look at, we have 4 representatives on the library board out of the 7. We fund the library board to a large percentage of its budget. We are about to commit to a $7 million renovation of the library. This is a critical time. We are spending a lot of money for the township building, for the library. We've committed it to the police station, to the public works. And sometimes it's a difficult thing where you need to make a change, not because of anything. Ms. Gaspara has served ably. I can only say positive things, and I've only heard positive things. But I think there is a point, and we need, as Commissioner McCluskey said, this is a time where the library has to look as much institutionally as it has to look financially to make the most of it can. And I believe that Ms. Fox Tully is a better candidate on that balance, not for someone serving or not serving ably, but because there are times for change. I detest this meeting for that reason, because we are not voting against someone, we're voting for someone. We have among the candidates for the library, the people who applied include former Commissioner Jane Hall, Philip Goldsmith, the former managing director of the city of Philadelphia, who has, managed the city of Philadelphia. He has been Ed Rendell's chief of staff. He could run the township or any municipality or in the county. We had the former president of Cornell University. We have had the talent that is there makes it a shame that we can only have 4 appointees, 7 total, that's state law. But it is the most difficult decision. And I urge the board, to think about those considerations as we take this vote and all the others. And, I hate this night.
Very well put.
Well said.
Mr. Chairman, we had the interviews, there was a lot of good interviews, but the time has come now for a vote, and we're not going to sit here, we went through all these interviews, and I'm not going to get into the difference between their candidate and Mrs. Gasparo, but I'm asking that you call for a vote.
I'd like to make a comment as a liaison to the library. Echo Mr. Siegel's comments. I have some issues and reservations with the way that the library board made their changes at the last minute. I also have ethical reservations about it because we are precluded, as most nonprofits are, from making bylaw changes that affect terms, stipends, and compensation of a sitting board. It's not good governance. If you look at board governance, it's not good governance. We're not allowed to give ourselves a pay raise until after you leave office. It's just not a good thing. And if you're going to go by the letters of the bylaws, their bylaws clearly state that if you miss 3 meetings in a row and 5 total in a year, you're no longer eligible to be a trustee. And not because of anything, but primarily because of health. Ms. Gasparo has missed 5 in a row and 6 total in the last year, and the previous year she's missed other meetings. So by their own bylaws, she's no longer eligible, in addition to voting yourself a continuing term limit. I have ethical reservations about that, and then the last minute manipulation of the board bylaws at the meeting before ours. So as the liaison there, they're my reservations. The library trustees' main role is development and to raise money. We're funding the bill for the $7.5 million of renovation and building there. To date, the best year that they've had is $35,000 or $45,000 in raising. We have an opportunity, as Mr. McCluskey pointed out, to bring in somebody that knows development and can aid the library trustees to raise money for the construction of the new library, the outfitting of the new library. So I think, and then I don't think it's fair to the people that serve on the current board for people that don't come to not honor the bylaws. And then I think it's even further a shame that if we're going to continually reappoint all these committees, then why do we have the interviews in the beginning of the year to interview other candidates if we're simply just going to reappoint because they've done a good job there? 9 years is great service. I thank Ms. Gasparo for that. But if we're going to follow their bylaws, then we're in violation of their bylaws by appointing someone that didn't meet the criteria. I've went through all their minutes. They're not excused absences. They're just listed as absent. So if you have to go by the record as we do, then we're stuck following the bylaws of the Library Board of Trustees. And that's, just has been sitting, going to the library meetings over the last year or so.
I just suggest, since I think Commissioner Holmes had made a similar point, you kind of elaborated on it, but I think it's critical that the taxpayers be assured that whatever process was undertaken by the library board was beyond reproach. And I would ask that we, instead of relying on them, that we ask our own solicitor to come back to us, do his own independent evaluation, and come back to us with his opinion on what was right, if anything was done improper or whether it was done proper. And I would move to table this tonight until we get a full report from our solicitor.
I would second that.
I'll second the motion, too.
Mr. Oliva has seconded on the motion to table. And this motion to table, Mr. Byrne, and that's what you'll do, is that you will consult and come back to us at a regular meeting of this month?
Yes, I will, yes.
You look at all the minutes and the bylaws.
I'll take a look
and
at everything, yeah.
Independently?
Yes.
Okay,
So you'll come back next week?
I'll come back next
With an
week,
answer?
yes.
okay.
All right, there is a motion to table by Mr. Lewis and a second by Mr. Oliva. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And the table has it.
I join Mr.
Siegel in detesting this meeting.
I'll third that.
Yeah, I think so too.
Item next on the agenda is Parks and Recreation Board for a 5-year term.
Mr. Chairman,
Can I do this, Jimmy, please? Can I do this?
go ahead.
Thank you.
Mr. Oliva,
Motion to appoint Bill Gormley to serve on the Parks and Rec Board for a term of 5 years to expire December 31st, 2020.
Second.
Mr.
And
McGarity.
I'd just like to add, Bill is, I know Bill personally, I've served on boards with him, fantastic individual. His father has been a Lanark resident, as well as him, for a very long time.
Always been involved in recreation, Mr. Gormley.
Involved
Very
in
good.
recreation, he's a coach and always working in baseball with the kids, and I would definitely recommend him for this position.
Okay, we have a motion, we have a second.
Motion to close.
Second.
Oh, there's a- yeah.
Okay. Yeah, what do I want to ask? Motion to table, yes, no? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Very good. Take the roll, please.
Mr. D'Amelio?
Mr. Gromley.
Mr. McCluskey?
Mr. Gormley.
Mr. Siegel?
Mr. Gormley?
Mr. Lewis?
Mr. Gormley.
Mr. Holmes?
Mr. Gormley.
McGarity?
Bill Gormley.
Mr. Wexler?
Mr. Gormley.
Mr. Oliva?
Mr. Gormley.
Mr. Connell?
Yes to Mr. Gormley. Congratulations, Mr. Gormley.
Congratulations.
And I believe you're here tonight. Okay.
Thanks for coming.
Planning Commission, there are 2 4-year terms.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Lewis.
I'd like to make a motion to reappoint Chuck Reardon to serve on the Planning Commission for a 4-year term to expire on December 31st, 2020.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. McGarity. Motion to close.
Mr. President, I'd make a motion to appoint Jamie Lazarly
Jamie.
to serve on the Planning Commission for a 4-year term to expire on December 31st, 2020.
Aren't there 2 openings here? Do we have 2?
There are 2 openings.
We have-
No, I can wait till the second if you want.
I'm
Okay, why don't we
supportive of
just,
that.
do you want to do the first one, then you can bring it up on the second, or you want to do it now?
You can do it now.
No, let's do it now.
Yeah.
Let's do it now. The motion has
You
been
do it
made.
now, yeah.
Okay.
And I need a
Motion to
second.
close.
I need,
Second.
Mr.
No, we need a
I
second.
need a second for
Okay,
my
I
motion.
second.
Mr. McCluskey.
I second Mr. McClusky's motion.
Okay.
And I make a motion to close.
Motion to close?
He's-
If we don't need to make a choice and we have a second position and you want to put him up for the second position, the only risk is that the second position.
Then you have another
somebody else
person
comes
for
up
that.
And you come against him, so
I-
you want
I
to
can
keep him
take-
on, I mean, you want to have it.
Well, it's a
have
she.
a vote now, or do
It's a
you
she.
want to withdraw your motion and put him up for the second
Go ahead.
position?
I can withdraw my motion and put her up in the next round. That's fine.
Second it, Mary.
Yeah, that's fine.
All right, so we're going to delete the second candidate
Ms. Lazarly.
from the roll here, from the appointment, and the only one on the board is going to be Mr. Reardon.
Sure.
Correct.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Take the roll, please.
Mr. D'Amelio?
Mr. Reardon.
Mr. McCluskey?
Mr. Reardon.
Mr. Siegel?
Mr. Reardon?
Mr. Lewis?
Mr. Reardon.
Mr. Holmes? McGarity?
Chuck Reardon.
Mr. Wexler?
Mr. Reardon.
Mr. Oliva?
Chuck Reardon.
And Mr. Connell?
Yes to Mr. Reardon. Congratulations, Mr. Reardon. The second seat is also for a 4-year term.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to appoint Mr. Robert Forlamando to serve on the Planning Commission for a 4-year term to expire December 31st, 2020.
It's a Firamundo.
Is that a second?
That's a second. A second for Mr. Firamundo.
Mr. McCluskey.
Mr. President, I would like to make a motion to appoint Jamie Lazarly to serve on the Planning Commission for a 4-year term to expire December 31st, 2020.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Holmes.
Just to avoid confusion, just for discussion at this point, is that all right, Mr. President?
Discussion, yes,
I would,
please.
I would. Ms. Lazarly, I think, made an excellent candidate during the interviews. Another example of a lot of the talented people who appeared. And just to reiterate, if I wasn't clear in some of my earlier comments, I mean, everyone who appeared before this board was overly qualified and willing to volunteer their time to serve on these boards. So, as has been echoed by many of my colleagues, it's not necessarily a vote against anyone else. It's really just impressed in the short time that we've had, based on reviewing resumes and in the brief interview time that we had. And Ms. Lazarly was certainly impressive in her interview. She is a graduate of the College of Charleston and a bachelor's in historic preservation and community planning. She has a master's from Auburn University in community planning, and she currently works for the Chester County Planning Commission. So she has both education and background that I think, given the upcoming needs of this township in the Planning Commission, would be worthwhile, and we'd be well suited to take advantage of her talents.
Yeah, excuse himself, we'll be right back.
Do you want me to keep talking?
No, just,
I Mr. Holmes do that.
Larry can fill in.
all right,
You want me to
Steve
fill
only
in?
likes me because I'm not that
Larry Holmes
long-winded.
can fill in. Go ahead, Larry.
do we have a motion to close nominations?
Motion to
Hey,
close.
you jumped in on your chair pretty fast.
I make a motion
He
to
asked me
close.
to.
Second.
You pulled
I
the
asked
first
him to.
tissue out.
He asked me to.
Mr. Chairman, I made a motion to close. Jimmy second.
Yeah.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Answer with the name, please.
Mr. D'Amelio?
Robert
Fiermondo.
Robert.
I think I could say that, right?
Mr. McCluskey?
Ms. Lazarly.
Mr. Siegel?
Mr. Fiordamondo.
Fiermondo.
Mr. Lewis?
Mr. Firamondo.
Mr. Holmes?
Ms. Lazarly.
McGarity?
Robert Fiermondo.
Mr. Wexler?
Mr. Fiermondo.
Mr. Oliva?
Mr. Fiermondo.
Mr. Connell?
And Mr. Fiordamondo. Congratulations. Who is here tonight? Yes. Rob is here tonight.
If I may, Mr. President, just so the public knows,
Certainly.
you know, we're building the new municipal building, and Mr. Fiermondo played a tremendous role in assisting us on the planning, and you know, I think part of the reason we've been so successful with the building is his efforts. So I just want to thank him.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next on the agenda is Senior Citizen Advisory Council, the one-year term. These are ward commissioners who appoint individuals from their ward for a one-year term. And we will begin with the first ward.
I'd like to table mine.
Okay, Mr. D'Amelio, ward number 2.
I'm 3.
You're 3, yep.
But I'm going to table mine till next week as
Okay.
well.
God bless you. Okay. Number 4?
John Groch, G-R-O-C-H.
I'm sorry, Mr. Siegel?
John Groch, G-R-O-C-H. Excuse me.
Number 5?
Table mine.
Ward 6?
I'm going to table mine, Mr. President.
Ward 7?
I'm going to table mine too, Grace.
We got a big table. Ward 9?
Robert Lewis, Lewis.
Ward 2?
Jack Doherty.
And Ward 8 will be Mrs. Annette Martini. Congratulations to all those individuals, to all our senior citizens that do their very best to make society a wonderful place. Vacancy Committee is, next on the agenda is the Vacancy Committee. It's a one-year term.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. D'Amelio.
motion to reappoint Chris Lorario to serve on the Vacancy Committee for a one-year term to expire December 31st, 2017.
Seconded by Mr. McGarity.
Motion to close.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Take the roll, please. Mr. D'Amelio.
Mr. Lorario.
McCluskey?
Mr. Lorario.
Mr. Siegel?
Mr. Lorario.
Mr. Lewis?
Mr. Lorario.
Mr. Holmes?
Mr. Lorario.
McGarity?
Chris Lorario.
Mr. Wexler?
Mr. Lorario.
Mr. Oliva?
Mr. Lorario.
And Mr. Connell?
Yes to Mr. Lorario. Congratulations. Next on is the Vacancy Property Review Committee. It's a 5-year term. This position is represented by a commissioner. The last commissioner that expires, that just expired is moi. I was on that position for the last 5 years. So I will open that up to any recommendations to any commissioner that
Make a motion, Mr. Chairman, to reappoint Chris Connell to the Vacancy Property Review Committee for a 5-year term expiring December 31st, 2021.
Second.
Mr. President, if you don't want this burden, I would be happy to serve as the vacancy property.
Let's go through that again.
Wait,
Aren't we?
we're doing vacancy.
Motion to close.
We're on vacancy committee, right?
This is the Vacancy Property Committee, Review Committee. That's a
Okay.
5-year term, and that's the one that you had served on
Yeah,
before. You and I were on that prior to you being the commissioner, and I was
Right.
the commissioner representative to that.
Or do you want to serve, continue to serve?
I don't mind serving,
Unless,
but I just want to make you understand that that's what it is. It's the commissioner's position.
Can you serve as president? Because you're not in any other committee.
Well, I am
There are
actually on all
there are the
committees.
three other
but
commissioners, are there?
Is there an issue with
No.
me being president?
He's the only
and
one.
Being on this individual committee?
I don't know the answer to that off the top of my head. I mean, I
He's the only one.
charter, I don't know.
let me table.
I got a question. How would you have a 5-year term for it? We only have 4-year terms.
Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah, that's a good. That's a good. Why don't we table it until we get an answer from Mr. Byrne?
Second to table.
You know, okay.
You have to call the roll.
There's a motion to table. It was seconded by Mr. Oliva. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Okay, we will table until the January 9th meeting. Zoning Hearing Board is also a 5-year term.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to reappoint Bill Rhodes to serve on the Zoning Hearing Board for a term of 5 years to expire on December 31st, 2021.
Second.
A lot of seconds.
Okay, seconded by Mr. Oliva.
That's right.
I would move to close the nominations.
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Take the roll, please.
Mr. President, before we do, could we just make one
Discussion?
clarification for the purposes of public understanding? While this is a reappointment, Mr. Rhodes only served out the final term
Right.
of another zoning member.
The final year of a.
Yeah,
Final
final
year,
year of
right.
a 5-year term. So while it is a reappointment, Mr. Rhodes has only served on it for 1 year. Obviously, I seconded it and support his candidacy strongly, but just so the public understands.
Did he
this
do a
is
good
his
job in that
first.
1 year? That's the question.
I certainly
He did a
believe
great
he
job.
did.
Okay.
He
The
did
vote
that?
will tell.
And he worked before on our
Planning.
planning commission for at least one full term.
Yeah, he's very good. at
But
what
I
he
just,
does.
I thought it's worth knowing, the public know that this is his first full, serious term that he's under full entire term he's under consideration.
He replaced Evelyn Yankowski when she resigned.
Retired.
Retired.
She
Sorry.
hasn't retired, has she?
She retired is a better word. She served admirably.
Okay, gentlemen, if that's the end of discussion, please take the roll.
Mr. D'Amelio?
Bill Rhodes.
Mr. McCluskey?
Mr. Rhodes.
Mr. Siegel?
Mr. Rhodes.
Mr. Lewis?
Mr. Rhodes.
Mr. Holmes?
Mr. Rhodes.
McGarity?
Bill Rhodes.
Wexler?
Rhodes.
Mr. Oliva?
Mr. Rhodes.
And Mr. Connell?
Yes to Mr. Rhodes. Congratulations, Mr. Rhodes. The Board of Commissioners will meet again on Monday, January 9th at 7 p.m. in this room for a regular session. Congratulations, gentlemen, for getting through another reorganization.
No bloodshed. Mr. President, I move to adjourn.
Second.
Or are you in the middle of something?
Well, there is, FYI, there is a 6:30 executive session
Discuss real estate.
to discuss real estate, but the public meeting will be at 7 o'clock. Thank you very, very much for coming out tonight. Please be safe on your way home.
Mr. President, I
Mr.
just
Holmes?
would state for the record, I will not be in attendance at next week's meeting. Those appointments that I'm entitled to do myself, I will get that to you in advance, and you can read those aloud. I can't vote by proxy or by phone on any of the other ones, but I do believe that I can present my ward appointments, and so I'll give them to you to announce next week.
Okay. Very good. Thank you very much. A motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Happy New Year to everyone.